Well, good morning, everybody. How's everyone
You got
doing
me?
today? Happy Tuesday, everybody. John the Turn alongside Nathan Wangler. And hey, why not do something a little more fun, right? Let's not just hop right into it, right? Let's just see if people are paying attention on this Tuesday morning. It is Tuesday. It is cold. It is Michigan. It is across this country, and you are watching Inside the Game, the official podcast here on the National Soccer Network. You can watch it daily, Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. Eastern on the National Soccer Network on YouTube, Roku, Twitter, X, and Facebook. And we did make a little bit of an adjustment here today to our overall look and feel. I don't know if you noticed that or not there, Nathan, but if you are watching, we made some adjustments so that Inside the Game was more prominent up top, and then down below is where you can get some more information about where to watch us. And to be fair, if you're already watching us, I don't know if I need to tell you how to watch us, but I mean, I guess that would be maybe the conundrum in that.
And I got this little fancy doohickey here so you can actually see my face, which is pretty nice. You know, we're moving on up, man. You know, we're moving and shaking, if you will.
That's what shaking and bacon. Shaking and bacon is
bacon. What's up, Peter?
Mizulik says, good morning, everybody, and happy Tuesday.
Taco Tuesday.
Happy Taco Tuesday. It is Tuesday. It is the 26th episode. It's hard to believe that we're almost at 30 episodes in total. You know, when you think about how many of these we've done, we've had one show that we haven't done. That's why we're not at 27, because there's that one show we did that we didn't do while I was on a plane heading to Oklahoma City. So that was the only show that we have not done. And since we started this thing back in January. So that's pretty, I would say it's pretty impressive.
Yeah, not too bad, honestly. But we filled it up with a lot of good stuff, and honestly, it's only going to continue to get better. You can see as it continues to build steam. We're coming up with more segment ideas, and the other thing is we know a lot of people in the soccer sphere too. So we want to let everybody know who's watching this. Right, we're going to eventually start to progress that direction too. You know, and get more people in and involved in this, and because we are a network that likes to shine a light on the game. We talked about that's really our mission statement. That's really our goal. That's our direction with all this. That's going to really help us out with that. But it's cool that we have this because this is kind of the platform where you can really do it.
He beat the punch.
Ray Boggs. I was going to say our Saquon Barkley episode. I feel like that one was more, you know, relevant. But those are some good polls, Peter. I'll give you that one. But this is kind of the platform you could do it. So yeah, it's been a good stretch so far.
Well, that it has. And so, you know, we talked about yesterday. Obviously, that promotion relegation conversation is going to continue. It's going to be something that we're going to be obviously, I'm sure on some level we'll be talking about a lot because it seems to be something that is a very passionate perspective from the quote unquote soccer fan across the United States. So it's not as passionate, I'm sure, as you know, across the pond because they've been living it. So maybe there's the passion might just be that they don't want their team to get relegated and they want their team to get promoted. But there's no you know, oh my God, thank goodness we have this. No, I don't know if that's the actual thing or not. But with that being said,
and I before we get started here, I just want to say one of the, you know, I think everybody has like this, even if it's nonverbal, everybody kind of has like this list of stuff they want to do before, you know, they pass through the pearly gates. Everybody does. And so I have my list of things that I want to do. One of those being I want to go over to Europe, whether it be Spain, whether it be Italy, whether it be England, whether it be France, any one of these places. And I want to see a professional game, like at the highest level, at one of the places that's, you know, Spain, whatever. I want to go experience that because I want to experience what it's like to see a game day in the homeland of this game that we talk about every day and what that actually feels like in person. Because I imagine it's a lot like Europeans coming over and seeing a football game. You know, I want to feel that. And you know, the promotion and delegation and regulation and all that other, when we talk about that, when we get frustrated or passionate, the reason being is because maybe part of me and part of JT as well, less of me only because I'm newer to the soccer space, right? This game is growing on me. I always tell people that. And you know, I think it's a great game, but I continue to learn more. And the more that I learn, the more that I love it. But in one way or another, I think there's a sliver of hope in both JT and I that eventually we can get to that space in America to where we can celebrate the game like that. Now, I don't know if it's ever going to happen, but that's the big thing, and that's the reason why we continue to talk about it and shine a light on it. This is the platform where we can kind of open up about that and maybe air our frustrations as to why it isn't that way. Because like we said, we're always fighting an uphill battle, and the only way to fight that battle is to talk about it and make people talk about it. That's what it's good to have this for. So anyways, as you were saying.
No, it's a great point. And obviously with the name of the show is called Inside the Game, and we've talked about that. And from time to time, we're not going to just talk about soccer. We know that,
right.
Right. And maybe that's part of the reason why soccer is what it is in this country, is because even shows like ours, which is geared more towards a soccer audience, is still going to talk about other things that are in the world of soccer or in the world of sports. Maybe that is the problem. But to be fair, from someone who sits in this chair who has been part of soccer my entire life, I'm well aware that there are other sports.
You got to relate to people. You got to relate to the American audience.
Yeah, but I also I'm well aware that the fact that there are other sports in this country, and I enjoy those sports. I enjoy, again. I mean, when I say I enjoy, I really enjoy football, and it's not because of it. It's just, be fair, it's just something I just grew up being a part of, and I grew up being part of soccer, but I lived it, I breathed it. I still live and breathe soccer. It's just, I think it's important that we know that we are not other countries, and this is the one thing that drives me nuts, is that we always are comparing ourselves, right? Oh, well, Sweden does this, or Brazil does that, or blah, blah, blah. It's like, well, great. Yeah, they do that, but they are not the same as us. We are not the same as them. And again, nobody is lining up to get into Brazil. And I love Brazil. I think Brazil, no one's lining up to get into Brazil. No one's lining up to get, in these other countries, like lining up to the point that it's like millions of people. So the United States is very different than that of a lot of countries around the world. And we all have I say this a lot, all of our families, I don't care what family you're a part of, every single one of our families is dysfunctional on some level. Everybody has a dysfunctional family. I don't know what normal is, but to me, I think normal is just dysfunction. I mean, everybody has a loud cousin. Everybody has a loud sister or brother. Everybody has everybody has a dysfunctional member of their family, which makes the family dynamic collectively, dysfunctional. It's the same thing in the United States as far as like our way everything is done. We're dysfunctional, and it's as long as we just start to accept that. It's like
you will not find it, the diversity too is a big thing to consider here, because you will not find, in my mind, a more diverse country on the planet. That's the part about it. You have so many different things growing up as an American. And it's funny because I have these conversations with kids that come over as, the European students. They come over and go to college here. Students from South Africa, anywhere, in Africa, anywhere across the country. And I always ask them the same question. Do you plan on going home after graduation? What's up, Michael? Good morning. And they always shoot me the same answer.
Hope not.
No,
no, because America's great.
There's so many options. There's so many things I could do. I mean, even like sports wise, growing up, it was like, well, you could play rugby, you could swim, you could play baseball, you could play basketball, you could play football, you could play soccer, you could play, there's just so many different options that it's not like how it is in some different countries where like you're born and you got a soccer ball on your foot and that's what everyone does. So it's so diverse that you can't just you can't break America down into one thing. And so it's not just soccer. You can't compare, they do it this way over the pond, so it must work for the bajillion people that live in the USA. You can't, because it's so diverse and there's just so many options and so many things. It feels like its own world, to be honest with you. I mean, you could go from Michigan to Louisiana. Like, these are two different countries. Like, this isn't the same place I just came from.
And again, I think that's a great point. And that's why and the topic that we're going to talk about today, just so everybody has an idea, as we get ready to tee this thing up, is we're going to talk about some new policies and new I would say new stronger policies to protect referees in America. It just came out here in the last 2 weeks. We're going to talk about that today because referees in the soccer community. Now, this might apply to all sports ultimately, but this specifically in regards to soccer. And I think it's a good segue for us when we start talking about, like we saw in the Super Bowl on Sunday, we saw the ad between Snoop Dogg and Tom Brady, right? And it's like, hey, I hate you, you hate me. Well, and it's back and forth. And it's like, I hate that we have to make a commercial like this. Well, yeah, because in today's world, everybody is so on edge, right? And it's like, and I wish I could go out to everybody and just be like, put my hand on their shoulder and just be like, take a deep breath. Right? There's, I passion is great, but if we could just start with the thing is like, if we get the word hate out of our mouths and out of our vocabulary, that'd be a great step, right? I stop using the word I hate. I don't use that word anymore because yes, there are things that you don't like. There are things that you don't agree with, but to sit here and say things like I hate, it's a bad place to be. And I don't want to be like giving America a lecture about like, stop you, but it's just like, hey, like, no, just take a deep breath. Let's all just kind of, and it'll be okay. It'll be okay. It will. So that's my thing. And it's like, and this all correlates back to the environments that our kids and our athletes are playing in on Saturdays and Sundays across this country. You see these videos of moms and dads and coaches for that matter, berating officials, attacking them, right? It's no different than seeing that same conflict in a grocery store because someone's got in front of you in line, which don't get me started about that. That just drives me nuts. Like you're sitting in line and all of a sudden, someone just cuts in front of you. It's like watching the movie with Me, Myself, and Irene. Remember where Jim Carrey is in line and then she's like, "Can I cut in?" And then next thing you know, she's cutting in with like her 3 baskets or 12 kids, and they're all like right in front. And he's just like, at the moment that he just like lost it was right in that moment, right where it's like, oh my gosh, like all these things just started to build up until he became another person, right? It's like that is the definition, I think, right now of where a lot of Americans, a lot of people around this world for that matter, are at. It's like that was the last straw. Like I'm thinking about this in my mind, right? I'm driving down the road, right, Nathan? And someone cuts me off. The last thing that I want to do is get my insurance involved because I decided that I want to take it out on their car with my car. Like that is, but somehow we go there. Like people go there. They're like, I'm gonna use my car to hit that car. It's like we turn into like this, like just down the road, just wrecking our cars. It's like, clearly not thinking in those moments, right? Because if you were thinking, who the heck in their right mind would want to smash their car with another car on purpose? It's like, it just shows you that we have lost the ability, not all, but we're losing the ability to solve our problems without going above and beyond. And there's a reason why U.S. Soccer has put this in place because they realize that people aren't getting the message. It's not getting any better. And how do we protect our children, right? I was at a Little League baseball game. My son played t-ball back when he was younger. It was our first experience in the youth environment, and 2 grown men got into a fist fight. Coaches got into a fist fight at my son's t-ball game, where nothing matters, nothing on the line. It's t-ball. I mean, these kids are just out there trying to hit a baseball that they've never hit before. They're running around the bases and they're like looking at butterflies, and they're
going to third as opposed to going to first.
Yeah, they're like, they have no idea what they're doing, and they're getting into fist fights on the field, like pushing each other, shoving. It's like, wait, what is going on? Like, what is going on right now? And this was 7-8 years ago.
I remember because I was an umpire. It was one of my favorite stories, sports stories of my existence on the umping / reffing side. There was a sign every time you walked onto the field. And typically what I did was majors, right? So that was majors, I think, was anywhere from 10 to like 12, that area, maybe not 13. I think it was more 10 to 12. So, I walk up to the field and right outside of the gate where you walk on to enter the field, but all the fans are going to see it as they're walking past it. There's a sign, and it said, this is not a Major League Baseball game. So please conduct yourself like so, or something like that, or your son's not playing in the MLB. There's something it's almost kind of like dry sarcasm, but it was enough to get the point across, like perspective here. In this one particular game, I was the home plate umpire, and there was a play at home. And I called it safe. Now, mind you, the throw beat him by a mile. And right, this is what you see with little kids who don't know the fundamentals of the game. They don't quite know how to play it. Like, they know what the game is and what they have to do, but they don't quite know how to do it the right way. So the catcher catches it, again, the throw beat him by a mile. And then he goes for that typical little kid tag, where they like go right at your face with their glove to try and tag you as opposed to tagging your foot, So kid slides right underneath it. And so the argument was, well, did he get him on the chest before he got his feet there? He did not. No, take that back. He actually missed the tag. He missed. And people thought he got him, but he completely whiffed. And so the kid's safe. I call him safe. His dad is really getting into me, back behind home plate. And, this kid was cool because, you try to at least chat up the catchers a little bit when you're a home plate umpire. And so he's yelling at me, and his son is actually just standing right off to my right. And so I kind of stopped talking to him, and I look at his son, and I go, "Did you tag him?" And he shakes his head, no. And his dad goes, oh, okay, good call. The kids are affected by this less than what the parents are. And the more that we continue to get away from what is important in playing sports for kids, team building, physical exercise, finding something that you're passionate about, that you're willing to work towards, we're going to have more kids continue to leave sports at the athletic prime of their life because they're burnt out mentally and emotionally. I work around the game of hockey. I'm sure it's really, really bad in soccer. And I know we're going to touch on some stuff that obviously the U.S. has put in place in order to protect referees in that degree. Hockey is brutal. And I can't tell you how many individuals I've known with great athletic gifts who are 18, 19, 20 years old, who are just like, I can't do it anymore. The amount of pressure that's put on me from the outside, not even from my own shoulders, but from the people around me, specifically the parents, it's just too much. So that's who I kind of hurt for a little bit in all of this. And I was always fortunate, JT, as an umpire. I don't really have like thin skin in that way. I'm the weird kind of guy. I kind of leaned into it a little bit. I almost hope that a parent would give it to me because I'm like, all right, this is going to be a fun Wednesday night. This isn't just another, routine walk in the park, but it's to the actual referees who do this consistently and want to do it for a living. Oh yeah. I mean, getting followed out to their cars, getting berated from people. And it doesn't, the perspective thing is what I always go back to because it doesn't make any sense in the long run.
So we're going to talk about this policy and what it looks like in this moment. But I want to start here. The real reason I believe why this happens is because people want to be heard. And more importantly, they want the other person to know that they've heard them. And that is what I believe is the underrooting issue. You know what I mean? I look at it like this and say, okay, if you think about it from the standpoint of everything else, right? You don't agree with something and you want to voice your disagreement with it. In most cases, you just want someone on the other line of that, other receiving, other end of that. You want them to basically like, yeah, no, I heard what you're saying. Now, I might not agree with you, but I hear it because I do believe that most of these situations are, I'm yelling at you because I want you to hear what I'm saying, and I want you to acknowledge that you heard it, right? And that I do think that is a big proponent of this.
Yeah. Conversation's a two-way street.
Yeah. So what I believe has to happen, and while there's consequences are the most important aspect of this, but in order for it to be so, it's called being proactive. How do you prevent it from happening in the first place? Like, how do you do that? Now, if it happens, here are the consequences, which will scare people, right? It's no different than any other law in this country, right? What the laws are written in a way that if you do them, there are consequences. You go to jail, you pay fines, whatever. But the goal is to not get to that point in the first place. So what do? You educate, right? You educate people, you educate the civilians, you educate the communities about the law, right? So that they know, like for example, if you're driving around this country right now, in most cases, there's a law that says you cannot have your cell phone in your hand. Right? So, and then when you get pulled over for having cell phone in your hand, if you weren't aware or did not make it, take the time to educate yourself on that, you're going to be yelling at a police officer because it's like the police officer's fault for pulling you. Well, don't you have better things to do? Well, yeah, I do, but this is like just as bad as driving drunk. Having your phone in your hand has been, so it's like, but I didn't know that I couldn't have it in my hand. I thought I just couldn't be talking on it. I was looking at my navigation. Like there's all these different, you just didn't know the law. And should the officer just give you a ticket for that? Well, we could argue about that, but that's the thing. So there's got to be a proactive approach to like, what is the core reason why this is happening? And it's not just the emotional outburst. It probably a lot of it, to be fair, is ignorance. They don't know the laws of the game. They don't know the rules. I have always said this: if a parent is coming into an environment for the first time, you start them off when they're toddlers. Every parent is required to go through a coaching, like a laws of the game class. It's required. Make it required. They are required to have a basic understanding of the sport their child is about to play in. That right there will eliminate a ton of issues, a ton of them. Because again, you're forcing, if UK wants to play, party registration, here's the class, go take it to the class. And make a class specific to the parent so that they understand this is what has to happen. And then if they want to learn and become more advanced in it, they can take those advanced classes so they can have a better understanding of the laws of the game. That should be a requirement. It shouldn't even be a thing. And so that starts to solve the problem on the front end. Right? Because that's it. People in the stands, oh, that's handball. Well, the law's not even called a handball. It's called handling, right? So you don't even know the law. Sit down and don't talk anymore. like learn the law, right? I can't hear you if you don't know the law. Like I don't have the time to explain the law to you. Right? I can explain to you what I saw. Like I didn't see it. I didn't see a handling. I didn't see the ball hit the hand the way that you did. That's one thing. But to say, well, that's a hand. Nope. You don't even know the law. If you knew the law, you would not know. It's not called a handball. Right. So it's like things like that. So I do believe that being proactive with this would solve 85% of your problems. 85. Right off the gate. 85 gone. Parents would have no choice. And again, it's systemic. It's generational too, right? So you started right now with 8, 10, 8, 9, 10-year-old moms and dads. By the time those kids are 18, the problem is solved. A big chunk of it because they're not, you know what I mean? And so I think that is the core reason why we have our problems because they don't know the laws. But let's get into the consequences. Let's talk about this. So what the U.S. Go ahead. Do you want to say something?
Well, just very quickly, even if we want to bring it, beyond just parents to on-field staff or people who are, involved in the game who are doing the berating as well, because we know that happens too. I'll say this, and I heard this from someone who was very high up in the umping tree, actually in charge of umpires in the minor league level. Oh, Peter disagrees. Kids will only lose out on playing.
I think it was in regards to something you were saying, but because I think you said that the love of the game and talked about. So I'm assuming that's what he meant.
I'm not sure what he's disagreeing.
Maybe we'll have to have him. But go ahead. Sorry.
Anyways, so Bill Welke's his name. He's in charge of all. He oversees umpires in the minor leagues. Former major league umpire for a long time. He always said this. Conversation is a two-way street. And I think that sometimes we live in a generation where sometimes that is missing in one way or the other. I think we're so busy talking at people and demanding things of people that we forget that there's someone on the other end of that equation, right? We always said this goes, I really don't care what you say, but it's the energy that you bring to me that's going to be given back to you. If you want to have a talk about getting stuff right or, changing something, or if you want to ask me a question about something, that's fine. And I am always open to hearing what you have to say. And he always says that. He doesn't care who it is. He's receptive to everybody who's on the field, all the coaches, not the fans, because they paid to be there. But everybody that's on that field, he's receptive to, and he's in charge of. And he goes, the energy you bring me is the energy I'm going to give you right back. And that's a dynamic, I think, for athletes and coaches, right? If you're watching this show, right? Because we're aiming for everybody in the soccer sphere. And we always talk about that, right? It's not just the fans, not just the players, not just the coaches, not just the media, right? We're talking about everybody here. If you want to start getting calls, and if you want to be on the right side of these things, you have to try to build some sort of relationship and some sort of back and forth dialogue. Because if you just start screaming, right, and you start talking at somebody, what's the first thing they're going to do? Referees are humans. They're going to get defensive, right? And I know we're moving in the direction of, robot judges, umpires, refs, but I assure you, everybody that's watching this right now, you don't want that. You don't want that. Okay, because the human element to the game, I believe, is a part of the game that we don't really appreciate right now, but we're going to appreciate it when we don't have it. So that's the important thing. I think if you're talking about coaches and players, start a dialogue and learn how to give off that energy that you want in return, because it always works out that way.
Yeah, I don't know if I totally agree with the energy aspect of this. It's not that I don't disagree that referees are going to respond or officials are going to respond to how they are being approached. But it's just like the biggest conundrum right now in this country is when you start talking about an interaction between you and a police officer. It is the police officer's responsibility to keep the professional. That's their job. As difficult as it may be, it is extremely imperative that they do that. They have to find a way to. We get it. I don't know if you saw this video. There's a video of a bunch of people from Congress. I don't know, whatever. They were like outside of the U.S. Education Department, right? And there's a guy standing there. He's just getting yelled at. And he's just sitting there. The guy's got to get like the Patience Man of the Year award, because there's like 400 people outside this door. He's standing there. He's the only person between these people and inside the building. And he is just, whether you agree with the guy or not, he kept his cool. He could have gone 9,000 different directions with that.
Yeah. And that's still important. I'm not saying that's important. Yeah, that's very important.
It's just like anything else. Again, there were moments where I made it worse because I allowed the energy from the moment to get the best of me. And we're all guilty of that as human beings. But it is imperative that the referee, the official who's in that role, is that they don't allow that outside force to overtake what the responsibility is, which is to keep the game, to manage the game. And again, I'm a firm believer that there are ways to use your tools in an effective way to do that. And this is what the U.S. Soccer is doing. They're giving referees the tools, and they're giving administrators the tools to hold these people, parents, coaches, players, accountable for what they do on a field. Here's some statistics. 90% of referees report that abuse has increased over the last 5 years. So you think about that. The last 5 years, over 90% of officials in the United States say that abuse has increased over the past 5 years. That's a big deal. 60% of referees choose not to recertify due to harassment and threats. So think about that. If there are 10 referees that come in brand new over the last year, that means 6 of them are not coming back because of referee abuse. 6. Huge number. So, that again, this is I would say a pandemic of sorts, right? This is a big deal, right? And U.S. Soccer has made it abundantly clear that if you treat referees in a negative way, in an abusive way, there are going to be consequences. And I'm going to see if I can get this on the screen. I'm going to try and share this on the screen here, see how it comes. I want to go through this. These are the consequences, and they're pretty severe. I don't know if I necessarily agree with all aspects of this, but again, and I'll explain this. I'm gonna explain this right now. As a referee, when I manage the game, Nathan, I created it like I was a pilot operating an airline, right? So, when you think about what you're doing as a pilot, right, you're taxiing down the runway, you get into takeoff position, and you gun it, right, and then you're going to take off. So for me, the taxiing aspect of my job was going and having a conversation with coaches, letting them know kind of how the game was going to be played out, how they could expect from me. And then pregame stuff with them, players, same thing. Then we know, hey, I blow that whistle, that's takeoff, right? We're taking off when I blow the whistle. The game is starting, it's underway. And that first 5 minutes, the first 5 minutes of taking off and coming in for a landing are the most critical moments. And when you start talking about flying on a plane, right? They're most critical. Most of your accidents happen either in the takeoff or in the landing, right? So our goal is to get to cruising altitude, right? And cruising altitude is the good chunk of the half, right? Where you let the game, you get to take off, and then I let things kind of smooth out a little bit. So what I would always do as a referee is I would keep things tight to start off with. I see a foul that could be a problem down the road, I call it. I set the tone. And then I let the game kind of start to play. Let the things open up a little bit, right? And then as the half is coming to an end, I'm trying to bring it in for a landing as safely as I possibly could. So I'm bringing it in. I might call things a little tighter to set the tone for the second half. I don't want things to build going into the second half, right? So I'm doing everything with a plan. And that's how I would look at this. This is kind of the same idea, right? Consequences is kind of the same idea. Let's take a look at what they have in store here. So we have our non-physical offenses, and then we have our physical, right? Obviously, if I have to explain those to you, then I might get mad if you don't know what those are. But
you might get physical.
Let's talk about this. Insulting, belittling, insinuating, or taunting behavior undermining the referee authority. It is a minimum of 2 games. Right, so you walk up to a referee and you insult them, you're going to see a 2-game suspension, right? So I would imagine red card is going to come out, you're done, and then you have a 2-game suspension. Now, a typical red card is a 1-game suspension. You got out the game that you're in, and then the next game you are out as well. This is you're out for the game you're currently in, you're out again and out again. So 2-game suspension. Harassment, intimidation, retaliation, abusive, or threatening non-physical language. So, saying F you, ref, will result in a 4-game suspension. Like 4-game suspension. So, and again, we can argue about what that might look like. First off, I want to give Jimco here good morning. Finally, well, good morning. We appreciate you hopping on in. So, okay, aggressive, attacking, derogatory, cyberbullying. That's a new one. Doxing or threatening physical violent language. So it's clearly in this red. That is a 6-game suspension or it's 6 to 24 months. So, and the reason they're putting these timelines here is because a lot of times, like if you talk about U.S. soccer and the men's national team, they're going to play maybe 6 games over the course of a 4-month or 5-month period. So they're giving this window like, okay, if you did this in the U.S. men's national team, and you did it during a international play, that you're going to be suspended for 6 to 24 months, right? Because you might only see 6 games in that time period. Offensive or discriminatory act. So this obviously line, you say something racist, you say something, obviously that crosses every possible line you can imagine. You're looking at a minimum of 10 games or 12 to 24 months. These are non-physical things. Before, I don't think they even existed. I don't think there was like, well, you're going to get a 10-game suspension if you say something terrible. You know what I mean?
So just out of curiosity, what levels does this cover? Just USA soccer?
This is U.S. soccer. This is going to be everything from your youth soccer all the way up to the men's and women's national team.
Okay. All right.
It's going to go all the way up. And it's not, it is, again, it is, It is for, I'd imagine, for players, coaches, fans. And again, from my perspective, we used to actually say this. We would joke around during our games when we first started doing all this. Nathan, is that like, hey, moms and dads, you get red carded, watch the game on MSN. It's like red card, go watch us on TV. Go watch us. You can watch your kid there, right? As a joke. But this is a significant. This right here is significant. This is a significant consequence for you insulting. First off, I think the cyberbullying one is interesting. So you're going to basically send an email or go on social media and attack a referee. You're going to get banned for 6 games.
I saw the term doxing on there, and that it just kind of made me laugh. It's like just the extent that, again, people will go to try and get their point across is just crazy. It's just nuts to me. But yeah, the other side of this too is JT, and this is all fine and dandy. I like these guidelines. I mean, honestly, if you want to go to the extreme on a punishment, fine. You have to set the tone. And I liked what you said about setting the tone, because you are in control of everything on that field, right? That is your job. And if you don't do your job, if you don't manage that the correct way, we've seen how that turns out. You've been in situations before where it gets messy because the people who are in control of that, they can't keep control. They can't set the tone, right? But now on the other end of that, you have to do all of that. Who's going to enforce this?
Administratively, so it'd be an administration thing. So the referee's job is the front lines, just like in a situation. If you were to compare this to a police officer, right? They're gonna pull you over, and if you do things, you get arrested. Then it goes on to the judicial side of this, right? It goes to the courts. Your administrators at the league level will be the ones to enforce these and dole out the consequences, right? Some are gonna be automatic, once and then it's gonna move on to the administrative side of it. This is the farthest I've ever seen it go from a verbal standpoint. I've never seen consequences like this, and they've really kind of laid out what it could be and what category. You go on and you start sending text messages, emails, or social media posts about a referee, you could see a 6-month to 2-year suspension, right? That's a significant amount of time. It's the right thing to do. And it's going to scare the shit out of anybody who's thinking about doing something stupid like this. And that's what you're trying. Again, the consequences are designed to scare you, so you don't do it, right? And I remember I already touched on this. The consequences are what happens if you do it. We need to address why they shouldn't be doing it in the first place. But again, let's dive into this physical aspect of this. There's a physical component. Minor or slight deliberate touching. So you walk up to an official and you're going like one of these things. It's minor. You like point them and maybe you touch their chest, like right here.
You just poke. You poke JT like that, right in the forehead.
Like that. Deliberate touching. You're looking at a 3-game. You're like 3-game suspension, 1 to 6 months. Right. That is what you are looking at, right? So you're looking at 1 to 6 months. Make this a little bigger if I can. So maybe that's too big. My bad. There we go. Okay. Pushing, grabbing, pulling, squeezing, pinching, lightly slapping, use of object in non-striking manner, or physical proper damage. So use of an. So I guess this is not like, I think, kicking a soccer ball in the direction of the referee. My guess is using use of object in non-striking manner. So I guess I'd have to get clarification on what that actually means. Because if I look at
something up and threaten someone with it,
I got a ball in my hand. I'm gonna kick it at you. That would be more verbal, right? So I mean, this is a physical aspect. So it can't be a verbal threat. It's got to be, I kick the ball in your direction, but I don't hit you, right? Maybe that's what it is. 10-game suspension, 6 to 24 months. Okay, now this last one: hitting, punching, elbowing, kicking, biting, spitting, choking, tackling, throwing, or use of object or any part of body, forearm, knee, head in a striking manner. So this doesn't even say you have to make contact. Again, a striking manner. So you go to do like a fake headbutt, you're looking at a 12-month to a lifetime ban.
Good.
I'm curious if they actually go through and they actually like in this. They actually. So yeah, they do. Okay, so this is like the verbal taunting. Do you even know the rules? Mocking appearance of it or abilities, accusations of bias. What's the other team paying you? Like that will get you verbal taunting, 2-game suspension. You're the worst ref we've ever had. That's harassment. That call was complete shit. Doesn't matter if it's true. If you say it, you're in trouble. This is level 2. It's a 4-game suspension, right? You're an effing joke, ref. Let's see here. You're gonna pay for that. I'll see you in the parking lot. 6-game and or 6 to 24 month minimum suspension. I mean, this is what extreme looks like when you start talking about. You better watch your back. Such as uploading a post to social media attacking the referee. Again, that's where this one falls in place. Offensive or discriminatory acts. So, your racial or ethnic slurs, 10-game suspension and or 12 to 24 months. Again, that is significant, and rightfully so. Rightfully so. You should not. There's no place for it in any part of the world, especially in sports. So minor touching, tap the referee's shoulder to get their attention. So tap, 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 tap. Right, 3-game and or 1 to 6 month suspension. So hey, ref, what the heck, man? And again, I don't think it's like you walk up to him and like tap him and say, hey, ref, I have a question for you. It's like, no, I'm showing you I'm not happy with your call and I'm putting my hands on you. So touching the referee's chest with your finger, which was the example I used. Look at that goalkeeper there, right? That's the example. Intentional confrontation. So a push. Referee's like, get out, and you push. Grab the referee's arm, dumping the referee's bag into a trash can. Wow, dumping the referee's bag into a trash can would be considered intentional confrontation. Aggressively grabbing the referee's jersey, following the referee to the parking lot or their car. So actually following them would be in this same realm.
That's considered level 2. That's nuts. I would have thought that was maybe a little bit higher.
Kicking the referee's shin, throwing a punch at the referee, placing hands on the neck to choke the referee, throwing a water bottle with intent to hit the referee, intentionally kicking the ball at the referee. So this is that one where you're kicking the ball at the referee. That would give you a 12-game up to lifetime ban. It's crazy. So then how do they report it? So match details. So the referee will write this in writing. The competition authority, you mentioned how they're going to hold this. And again, that is the quote unquote. That is it in a nutshell.
Man. So I'm going to pivot. And the only reason why I do this is because I like to open up dialogue.
Pivot. Shut up. Sorry.
Good pull. Little devil's advocate moment. I agree, and it sucks that this has to happen, right? In humans, really bad things have to happen sometimes before we put things in place that needed to change it long before. And I know that it's gotten worse. The whole berating of officials, it only continues to get worse. The more we get into the social media age, the more we get into,
Right.
Oh boy.
Joey?
Well, I brought the next best thing.
I couldn't help it, man. I'm like, you said pivot.
Good pull.
All right.
I haven't seen this show in so long.
Turn. Okay. Turn. I don't think we can turn anymore.
I just don't think it's gonna fit.
Oh yeah, well come on, up. Yes. Here we go. Pivot. Shut up. Okay,
I'm sorry. You said it. I had.
No, that's a good poll, man. I can't That whole story about Matthew Perry is so sad, man.
I know. But go ahead. Go ahead and pivot, please.
Hollywood. Anyways, pivoting. So again, it sucks that really bad things have to happen in order for us to put measures in place in order to make sure that those tragedies never happen again. But that's a tale as old as time. And now we've officially gotten to the point, it seems like in soccer, and I've never seen anything like that in any other sport. At least those guidelines. We've reached a point now to where it's gotten so bad to where I think in my mind, some of that you could say was taking it to the extreme. But in the eyes of US soccer, that's kind of what needed to be done. But here's what I think about this. I think for the parents, it's great. Because the only way that you're going to stop doing what you're doing is if you know that there are some pretty dire consequences for even considering it, right? And if you have a kid in the game and you're getting a 6-month ban, I mean, that could have some pretty negative consequences if you're not even able to go see your kid in game, you know, and he knows why you're not there. So I think it's great for that. The other side, and I'll ask you, because I think you would have a better pulse on this, especially if you were still in the refereeing space. Is there any pause to your mind when you see those rules and regulations and guidelines for refs that maybe, because I'm sure you've met people like this, the thin-skinned ones, the ones who are really easy to get through, who might be a little more reactionary. And a lot of referees are young because you're going to take them young because it's not like we have a surplus of referees, right? For those ones, do you feel like maybe there's a little bit of enabling that could be done with these guidelines? Because you do, again, you have to have some level of a thick skin. Now, again, the extremes, if someone's going to follow me to my car, yeah, I don't want you coming back. Okay, straight up and down. I don't want you to be there when I'm there. That's fair. But you think maybe some of this might, in a little bit, be enabling some refs?
I think there's going to always be examples of where a referee, a police officer, anyone in a position of authority is going to use consequences and or laws to be able to take advantage of a situation. That's always going to be the case. But just like I talked about the takeoff and how important it is to call the game at the beginning of the game, to set the tone, to let people know, you know, this is how this game is going to be called. Let the players know. That way they know, because the players are looking from the referee how the game is going to be managed. And sometimes, there's not a whole lot you have to do in those first 5 minutes, right? Those first 7 to 10 minutes, right? You might have to not do a whole lot at all. You just have to just be there and be effective. But the extreme is necessary right now, right? Zero tolerance would be what I would go to, right? And again, if we start talking about, and I don't want to get political, but what happens down at the border, right? With everything's happening across the country, I don't think there's an American out there today that isn't like, man, this is not right. Something's wrong over here. And going to a zero tolerance, saying, hey, nobody can come in right now. And as much as that sounds terrible, but it's a zero tolerance. You're like, hey, nobody can come in. Like it's a zero like zero tolerance, right? You're trying to set this tone. Like this tone that says, you can't come in illegally. And if you do, you're going to go back to where you came from. And it's not as terrible as that sounds. It creates a point, like a line in the sand that says, hey, we're not going to take it anymore. We gotta get back to a place where we slow all this down and get to a place where we can come back and cooler heads can prevail. That is what this is about. This is about saying no more. It is done. It's over with. Don't do it anymore. It's over. If you do, you're going to be gone. It's whatever. It doesn't matter who's doing it. Doesn't matter what referee is. And again, I would imagine on some level that if the same referee is doing the same shit to everybody, there'll be conversations about that. But right now, 90% of referees across the United States have said that they think abuse has gone up over the last 5 years. This isn't from like 10 years ago. This is like right now. So they're saying it's getting worse. It's not getting any better. So yeah, mom and dad, yeah, coach, yeah, player, yeah, broadcaster, because we yell too sometimes. I mean, we've seen it, right? Broadcasters get kicked out of a game. Shut your mouths.
Yeah.
Watch the
Well,
game,
that's it.
root on
Yeah.
your team, and don't go after the referee. And if you do, here's the consequences. You can't. You again. Being on the sideline is not a right, people. It's not a right. You don't. It's not a right. All right? Your kids. It's not a right. It's a privilege. It is a privilege. A privilege to go watch your child, go watch your city, go watch your town, go watch your team, It's a privilege to be there. It is not a right, and you have to act accordingly. And more importantly, what the hell are we showing our children? Like the rest of it. What are we teaching our kids? Like, what are you
They're
teaching
watching
them?
the pros.
Huh?
They're watching the pros and they're emulating them.
Yeah, but no, we're not. I know what I'm saying, but at a sideline, I'm sorry, but an 11-year-old kid who's playing a soccer game, hearing their knucklehead mom or dad or whoever in the stands berating an official, and then people getting into fights and all this kind of stuff. What are we teaching our children if we're doing this on the sideline? That's not what it's for. And again, I there's a consequence to this. I keep telling people that the reality is that if you're trying to stop this, it's not in the consequences. It's in the before the game even happens. I'll keep telling you that. I'll keep saying it. If you want to make the game better, and it's all sports, it should be required that parents have to go through laws of the game, understanding each law, understanding the aspects of the game specifically for that level, and make sure they understand every aspect as best they can. They need to go to school.
Yeah.
If they do that, then it will solve a lot of your problems. And Jimmy Coe goes,
when I was doing it, parents tended to be the worst. It's never gotten as bad as some of the things happening today. I'd agree. And here's where it's tough to find any real solution to this. And that's great that U.S. soccer is doing that. I think it's a cultural issue. And again, cultural issues are not, you can't grab them. They're not specific. They're not like material. You're not like, it's this one thing that we can do that's going to change this or switch this. It's a cultural shift in America. And here's what my dad said once upon a time, and it still rings true today. And it's something that he always said, when he used to coach my teams once upon a time. He goes, until you are paid to pick up the bat, until your son is being paid or your daughter is being paid to do what they do, you really have no foot to stand on to yell at and berate somebody. You really don't.
No, you don't.
You absolutely do not. But that's the hard thing again is, I think it's a shift in the culture in America. And that's the hard thing is like, it's so, how do you fix that? Because I don't think two guys talking into a mic on a podcast is going to do much to fix that.
No, but we can tell you, I can tell you this right now, like, with our parent portal that we're going to be creating with NSN Nation, you will definitely see this type of thing in the portal. We start talking about how we can help the game. This is how we can help the game. When we say this is your home for soccer, NSN Nation and the platform that we've created, we obviously created it for coaches, and we're going to create it for the same portal, but for parents and for players and for referees. We are going to be creating a place where yes, this can be part of the process. I will do anything I can to make the game better for everyone involved, not just a coach, not just a player, not just a parent, not just a referee, but everybody. The reality is that ignorance is not an excuse. It's not. We don't require this of parents. Maybe there are some leagues out there that require parents to go through this process. I've never heard of one. It is not required. Like, it is not required that parents and or players know the difference between the ECNL, the Girls Academy. It's not required that they know this. It's not required to know the laws of the game. It has to be required. It has to be required. In this whole world we live in where it's like, no. In order for me to get my license, I have to go to Secretary of State. I got to pay a bill. I pay a fee. I have to take a test. I got to take all this stuff. It is a systemic issue. It is not. And to be fair, it's systemic because the soccer community has allowed it to be. We have allowed this thing. Well, no, we can't charge parenting more money. Yes, you can. Yes, you can. Of course you
They
can.
don't want to pay it.
Or you include it in your registration fees. You are required to take this course. You are required. It is included in your registration. You have to take this course. You have to provide that you've done it. You have to show proof that you've done it. And guess what? If they do it, they've invested the time. It's investment of time and energy into doing it. Every year, if I wanted to be an official at the high school level, I had to take a concussion test. I had to watch a concussion video and learn how to handle a concussion as a high school official. That was my responsibility. Same thing as a coach. I do the same thing as a coach. I had to go watch these videos. Why aren't we making parents watch the same videos? You can't do that. You're about to ban them for life. Why not? You're about to ban them. You're about to ban players. Why not make them go and do this? That's the thing. It's like, okay, so how do we solve the problem? I'm telling the playbook right now. I'm releasing the playbook. It is to create a curriculum that is designed to teach parents and players and all participants the laws of the game. And as a part of that laws of the game, what are the questions that maybe they could be asking parents, coaches, players, whoever, in participants, like the types of questions that might be the most frequently asked questions and or situations that come up during the course of the game, and ask those questions. You know what I mean? And honestly, making a place where parents I gotta say, creating a community where parents can ask these questions, where they can be heard, and it isn't like this threatening environment, right? Create a place where a referee maybe, and to be fair, I would love to create something where in our community, every month we have a ask the referee, right? And parents sign up, right? Let's go ask the referee questions. Let's look at the laws of the game. Ask a question. Like, what does that look like? What is this? Let's ask in regards to offside. Like, let's talk about it. Let's dissect it. Let's ask your questions. And have a clear understanding. You will solve 85% of the problems that happen on a soccer field, maybe even more than that, by doing just that. I'm telling you, it will solve the problem. It will diminish immediately at the lower levels, and it will work its way up, right? Because we know that when they changed the heading rule in soccer, where you couldn't head a ball under the age of 12, we're seeing the repercussions of that now. Your 18-year-old soccer player does not know how to head. They don't know how to head the ball. Heading is a part of the game that's no longer an effective part of the game. Why? Because we changed the laws and the circumstances revolving around training with heading and in games. And now players out there can't head the ball. You aren't seeing the same heading of the ball you used to see. And you can argue whether or not that's good, bad, or indifferent, but it changed the game. The player can't head the ball. So what does that mean for a defender who's kind of trying to clear a head ball off the back line? They don't know how to do it. They're afraid to do it. They're going to use their legs. They're going to use their chest. They're going to use other parts of their body to solve that ball. And it's not a head, right? So because they're afraid, they aren't. It's not muscle memory. It's not instilled in them, and we're seeing those now. But that was a change that was made, I don't know, 10 years ago.
Yeah.
And now we're seeing the repercussions of that. It'll take about 10 years, but you do it. You make it required. It's not even an option.
Yeah.
Make it required. Just like if you wanted to have your kid, you want to go be a helper in your school, right? For your kid at school, you got to take a background check, right? Coaches got a background check. Not saying parents need to go background checking, but you can make them go through a process where they have to go through this examination process to understand the laws of the game, and it will solve a ton of your problems. That's my opinion.
Yeah. Yeah. I think, that's a part of it. I think it just comes down to the individual itself too. I mean, sometimes, giving them the tools of knowing the game better won't stop it. This isn't to say it's a cure all, but if they can do a little bit to at least alleviate some of the problems, again, I'm all for it. And I'm all for steep consequences, because I think people deserve to know what exactly it is that they're going to do and what it's going to result in. So I like the fact that that's in place. And you've seen it and I've seen it. And again, it's always just odd to me that people struggle with that perspective aspect of it, because I never really have any issues with that. Maybe because I've been on the other side of the fence, but good on them, as they should, because there needs to be something like this in place.
That is a wrap on today's show. I think it was a good conversation. We'll continue to talk about the referees and obviously things like that. We'll continue to talk about what we're doing at NSN Nation in order to improve the game of soccer. Tomorrow, we're going to dive into the college rosters and the sizes of rosters and how that has changed here for 2025, 2026. We'll get into that conversation and much more here on Inside the Game. I want to remind everybody that we are doing this MASL Arena Soccer game English commentary here coming up on Friday. That game kicks off at 9 p.m. Our pregame coverage begins at 8:45 Eastern on Roku and on YouTube. We'll end the show with a promo. But Nathan, man, another great show in the books. Number 26 is down and done. Down and done doesn't sound right, but it is done. Complete.
Oh,
Fini.
Fini.
Okay. But that is a wrap. Jonathan Turner alongside Nathan Wangler. Check back here tomorrow morning, same time, same place, right here on the National Soccer Network. Inside the Game, number 26 in the books. This Friday night, Valentine's Day, the ultimate showdown in major arena soccer. It's first versus second. The Chihuahua Savages attack against the soccer's fierce defense. Coverage begins at 8:45 Eastern. This Friday night, only on the National Soccer Network.